Perfect. All right, yeah, that was the first time I've seen that before. All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Zion. It's addictive. Yeah, it's addictive. All right, so we left off the top of Zion Amud Aleph, Maseches Kesubos. We got to the second line we were discussing still yesterday in our question, Zion 7a1, discussing as to whether the Bia Rishayna could take place on Shabbos. As we mentioned, there's potentially Surim making a Chabura, right, which is like Shechita, right, or making a Pesach, which is like Baina, right, which is a Malacha. So second line from the top, first word.
Has to be done with something that's
okay. That's not not necessarily. All right. So Zak the Gemara, 2 lines, first word, second line, and away we go. Rav Ami Shar Lamiva Lo B'Tchil B'Shabbos. So Rav Ami permitted one to be bayal Tchilas Bia on Shabbos. Shamalei Rabbanan B'Hag like Siva Ksubasa. So there was no Ksuba written. Apparently during the time, I guess they would write the Ksuba at the time of the Chuppah of the Bia. So if that wasn't arranged before, so how could you do it? And therefore a woman potentially would be having Bia Rishayna without the Ksuba, which is a problem. No, she takes some movable items and uses those as temporary Ksuba just in case. And Rav Zvid Shara Lemiva B'Tchil B'Shabbos. Rav Zvid Matir want to go ahead and be bail Bia Rishayna on Shabbos. And he could obviously have a different version. Rav Zvid Gufei Baal B'Tchil B'Shabbos. Rav Zvid he himself was bail Bia Rishayna on Shabbos. And Rav Yehuda Shara Lemiva B'Tchil B'Yantif. And Rav Yehuda permitted one to be bail Tchilas Bia Rishayna and Yantif. So Amar Rav Papi Mishmei de Rava. So says Rav Papi in the name of Rava, Loi Tema B'Yantif Shari Hu Shabbos Aser. Don't learn from here that Yantif is mutter but Shabbos is Aser. Who did that feel Shabbos? That even Shabbos is permitted. So Nami Shari Shabbos is also permitted. So why they say like that? Umaisa Shayakach. That was how the Maisa Shaya. In other words, he permitted it. There was the question on Yantif. He permitted it, but doesn't mean he wouldn't give the same answer also for Shabbos. And Rav Papish made the Rava Amar B'Yantif Shari B'Shabbos Aser. However, Rav Papa said in the name of Rava, right? Rav Papi was the one in the name of Rava, and this is Rav Papa in the name of Rava. It says Yantif Shari B'Shabbos Aser. Similarly, Rav Papi the Rav Papa, my daischa. What do you hold? Mitaych shehucha chabura letzarech letzarech hucha namish letzarech. Are you telling me that since making a chabura, right, shalol letzarech and yantif is permitted? Let's say shechting, right? Shechting, you shecht the animal for yantif for eichel nefesh. So since you do letzarech, so now you can go ahead and do right like a shechita or making a chabura shalol letzarech, right? So in other words, because it's not for the purpose of yantif. So miato. Motilasas mugbar b'yantif, right? You can go ahead and the Kindle, what's it called? Essence, right? Go ahead to for smell is because you go ahead and kindle a fire for the purpose of cooking. So too, you can go ahead and kindle a fire for the purpose of incense. On that the pasuk says, so we learned from this pasuk that which is eaten l'chol nefesh for all person. Davar hashem l'chol nefesh. So something which is even for all. So now it's something that all it does, and everyone does not go ahead and use incense, and therefore you would not say the incense is okay. But perhaps by Bia Rishayna, right? Everyone should get married, and everyone will have the Bia Rishayna. So therefore, that's something which is l'chol nefesh. Similarly, Rav Achabrei the Rav Ashi El Miata Nisam Lotzvi Biyantif. However, well, let's say deer, right? You got deer. Not everyone eats venison, right? It's only something that the upper class eats, right? So because others don't eat, it's not a chol nefesh. So then, even if someone gets a deer, they can't go ahead and shech it on yantiv. Right? I'm referring to something which is all people, right? To them, that item, right, is something which is even for all, right? And tzvi tzarech chol nefesh, and tzvi, deer, food, right, is needed by all. So since it's needed by all, right? It's common to all. So therefore, all food is mutter, whether or not it's only eaten, by the 1% or not. Nevertheless, therefore, any type of shechita will be mutter, even if it's something that only the upper echelon, the upper class would go ahead and eat. And Amar Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi, Hayra Rabbi Yechanan B'Tzaidan. So Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi was Hayra, right? He gave the psak and the Tzaidan of Asr Libo B'Tchil B'Shabbos. It's Asr to go ahead and be Bayal Tchil B'Shabbos. Umiika Hara L'Isser, and Hara is L'Isser. Whereas where do we see this Hara? In other words, as Rashi mentioned, then what you paskin, something is Asr, right? You don't need a Masorah to say something is Asr. You want to be Machmer, you can be Machmer, right? You need a Masorah for a heter, right? But for something, we're Machmer, there's no psak that this is Asr, right? You need to know if something is Mutter. If something is Mutter, then you have a Hara. So where do we have this Lashon of Hara by an Isser, right? He was being Meir, right? We call it Meir Heter, right? There's Hara that's Asr Tchil B'Yom Shabbos. So miika hara l'isser. Mar says, yeah, I'll give you a couple examples. But tonight we learn in the Mishnah, hara beis hillel shedei nizira od sheva shanim acheros. It says by Hillel, I think it's Hillel Malka, right? So she was she's become a Nazir, right, for 7 years until her son returns for a war. And it turns out he came back, but she was b'chutz la'aretz. So l'chayra, right? There was tuma b'chutz la'aretz, so therefore, and part of the Naziris is to be tar. So therefore, they paskin. You need another 7 years, right? So it's the chumrah, right? Shadei Nazira oid sheva shanim acheros. Vinami or kiyad the time limit brisa chuta shija shenifsa klaruba divrei. They're talking about what is a treifa, and says Rebbe that if the spinal cord, right, most of it is severed, then it is a treifa. And Rabbi Yaakov, I feel a nikev, right? And Rabbi Yaakov says even if there's a hole, even if it's punctured, and Hayra Rebbe Rabbi Yaakov, and Rebbe then paskin like Rabbi Yaakov. Say machmer, they don't need a majority of it, rather just a puncture. So you see over there, Hayra, there was the Hayra, right? He paskin, right? The L'chumra, some Rav Huna. And he says, by the way, in halach Rabbi Akiva, there were Rabbi Yaakov. The halach is not like Rabbi Yaakov. In other words, that even that a hole would make it a trait, but rather you need shenifsak beruba. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Ma'asni Hachi taught this. Amar Rabbi Yevo Shal Rabbi Shmuel ben Yaakov the mean Sur. So Rabbi Yevo asked Rabbi Shmuel ben Yaakov from Sur. As Rabbi Yechanan ben Sidon, he asked Rabbi Yechanan ben Sidon. Vana Shmi and I overheard. Mahu libo b'tchil Shabbos. He asked, "Was halachah to be b'tchil Shabbos?" V'amar lei. So he told him, "Aser, it's aser. You can't do it." V'hilchasa, and after this two blot sugya, v'hilchasa muter libo b'tchil b'Shabbos. It is muter to go ahead and be b'tchil b'Shabbos. Fine. Third white line, 2 dots.
Yeah, what's unusual is that first they gave instances where Rabbanan Paskin, it was Mutter, Rav and Rav Tzvi, Rav Yehuda, and now they're giving people who say that it was Usher.
They get both ways throughout. We had throughout, even yesterday we had
the other order.
I don't know. We started off with Rav and Shmuel in the beginning, right? One said Usher, the other one says Mutter, and then it was a machlokas as to who was Mater, who was Mutter. So I mean, we saw in the beginning, right? There was like there were people on both sides. So Amar Rabbi Yechalbo, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Abba, Bar Zavda, Amar Rav. Achas Besula, V'achas Almana, whether it's a Besula, a woman getting married for the first time, or an Almana, or a widow, or it's also referred, or it could even be a divorcee, just basically a woman who's getting married again, not her first marriage. Te'una bracha requires bracha, right? Sheva brachos, right? We'll soon see, right? Te'una bracha. She doesn't need an almana does not need a bracha. So you just said almana needs a bracha. So like kasha kan bebacher shenas almana kan be'almon shenas almana. No, so it's not a contradiction. If an almana is marrying a bacher, in other words, someone who's never been married before, then it requires brachos. But if we're talking about an almana who marries an almana, in other words, both of them second time around, then it would not require any sort of shav brachos. The almon shenas almana lo, and you're telling me, right, a woman who's getting married for the second time, also married, they're both in their second marriage, there is no requirement of shav brachos. V'amarav Nachman Amar Li Huna Bar Nasan Tana Minayin LeBrachas Chasanim Be'asara. How do you know Brachas Chasanim is with 10 people? Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Vayikach asara anashim ziknei ha'ir. Right. So it says over there by Boaz. Right. They gathered 10 people. Right. For his marriage. Omar. Shubupo, right? Yashu, all right. So it says, so in this scenario, so we see that they gathered 10 people, right, to go ahead, and he said, basically, I'm going to go ahead and and get married here to by Rus, and over there in that case, Boaz Almon Shnas Almana, right, and he was an Almon that was married an Almana. So and this was second time around for both of them. And they were getting 10 people for a Sheva Brachos. So you see that it is a source. So Ma'ye Natuna. Bracha was being doesn't require bracha. Tam Rav Huna, Ein Natuna bracha kol Shiva. You don't need for 7 days. But for the first day, you wouldn't need Sheva Brachos. So Elo, the time we were in a Bryce, we saw earlier that one of the reasons why they don't do the Bir Rishayna on Thursday night is because on Thursday day is because then the guys can go off to work the next morning, because he's not going to be up late the night before, and therefore he's not going to do this wife for 3 days. But over here we see that it's only 1 day, not 3 days. So what's this 3 day, 1 day? And what's the case over there? Iba Bachar, if it's a Bachar Amarta Shiva, you need to be with 7 days. And Iba Almon Amarta Yamechad, he said 1. So where's this 3? So Iba Yisema be Almon. Maybe it could be with an Almon. It's his second marriage. Indeed, it's still 1 day of Shavrachas. However, Shleish the Simcha, but 3 days to be with her, right? To be the Misamecher. Or you can say the Bachar. Even if it was referring to a Bachar, is Shiva Lebracha is 7 days is a bracha, Shleish the Simcha, and 3 the Simcha. So even if the Almana went ahead and married a Bachar, so even though there would be 7 days of Shavrachas, but there's only 3 for a Simcha. Turn the page.
For Almana.
For an Almana, right, for her second marriage. So Meisvei, Mevarechim L'Basula, 3 days together, but there was the 3 days is just the Simcha. It could be either way. A woman's second marriage just needs her husband to stick around for 3 days. When it comes to Shev Brachos, so then it depends. If it's his first time, 7 days, 7 brachos. If it's not his first time, then one day of Shev Brachos. But either way, it doesn't affect the Shlosh of the Simcha.
It doesn't affect the number of brachos.
The brachos are the same. We haven't made any change. So Meisvei Mevarchim L'Basula Shiva U'Le'Almana Yom Echad. So it says that they're Mevarchim for a Basula for 7 days and Almana for 1 day. So my lav afilu Almana Shenises L'Bacher is this referring to an Almana, a widow who married someone for the first time, and we just said before it's supposed to be 7 days, not 1 day, because for him it's his first marriage. So when I answered lo Alma, right? No, it means it's also his second marriage. About the Bacher mais, but what if an Almana marries a Bacher, then it's Shiva, it's 7 days of Shevrachas. See, if that's the case, Lisnei should say in the Brisa, Mavarchin Basula Shiva, you always have 7 days of Shevrachas for a Basula. Ule'Almana Shani says lebacher, and when it comes to an Almana who marries a Bacher Shiva, then you need 7 days. Ule'Almana Yom Echad, and if it's Almana who's just with an Almon, that's only 1 day. So why didn't they write that? So my answer is no. Milsa the Psikasa. He wanted to say something right with a quick statement which didn't really change. The leka basula the basam shiva, because if a basula is getting married, then she never has less than 7 days of shevrachos, right? And the leka almana the b'tzira miyam echad. By in other words, by yibum l'chara, it's right. L'chara will be like a marriage, right? If there's even let's say if you boil her, right? No, if he's boil her, then l'chara that's the marriage, that's everything, and therefore there will be shevrachos for 1 day. No, I think then there would be a requirement l'chara of the shevrachos.
Any woman who's
second marriage, yeah, right, right. Grusha is Grusha is would be the same. And however, in Almana, and therefore it also give a psak by an Almana because you'll never have an Almana if she marries Almon who has less than 1 day of shevrachos. So Gufa, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Lihuna, Rav Nosan, Tana Minayla Berchas Chasan Be'asara. So we said earlier we saw this. So where do we know that the Berchas Chasan the Shevrachas? That we commonly know Shevrachas is with 10 people. Shinamar the pasuk says, "Vayikach Asara Nashim Zikna Eir." They took from 10 of the elders of the city. Vayom Shmupo when it says so there, remain here. Rabbi Avahu Amar Mehachan. Rabbi Avahu brings a different pasuk. He says, "Va'kalos, v'makelos, Baruch Hu Elokim Hashem Mimekor Yisrael. So it says over there, the famous pasuk in Tehillim, right, referring to you should have from the kahalois, kahal, right? So we know that kahal, right? We learned there's no kahal, right? From the Eda, right? From the by the Meraglim, so kahal is 10. So it says from the kahal they should bless Hashem in Mekor Yisrael, right? From the source of Yisrael. How does the source of Yisrael come from? How do they procreate? Through marriage. So therefore, when it comes to marriage, you have kahal, you have 10. Rav Nachman b'hai krod Rabbi Yevo my darish base. So Rav Nachman used the pasuk by Boaz. So what do you use this pasuk for? So he needed it for something else. Look at the time when it writes. So how do we know that even the fetuses in their mother's wombs they said shira alayam, right? When the sea was split, they also sang shira to the rest of the Bnei Yisrael. Shneimar says. Makaylos Baruch Elokim Hashem Mekor Yisrael. It says over there. So when they bless Yisrael, the cow from the Makor, right? Even from the Makor, from the wombs, right, of their mother, they sang out and they blessed Hashem. Vida, and the other opinion says Im Kain Lemakra Mibeten. It says Mibeten from the stomachs. My Makor. Al Iske before from the matters of Makor, from the matters of the source. Was the source, right? They come through the marriage. So therefore. So therefore, it wasn't referring to that. It's referring to source for Shevrachos. Rabbi Avo b'hai krod Rav Nachman my darshibe, and Rabbi Avo do with the pasuk that Rav Nachman brought by Boaz. Aho mibayile. No, he did for something else. The midrash, is over there because he darshan over there. Ammoni v'lo Ammonis. He says, by the way, that which the Torah forbids one to go ahead and marry someone from Ammon or from Moavi v'lo Moavis or a Kemir Moavi. It's only referring to the males. However, the females, such as Rus, right, would be permitted. Because if you think that he's calling over 10 people for Shevrachas, so why would you need Zakanim? It says there they call the elders. Why do they call the elders? Because he wanted to go ahead and pass an halacha to have the basin, all the Rosh Hashivas there, so they can go ahead and teach everybody. Says, no, what are you talking about? If it was to darshan, so let's say you'll have a sarah, right? Why did you have to have 10, right? Just get a couple, then we'll spread the word. Why did you need 10 people from Sikna year, right? So he says, no, yeah, actually 10 it does make sense. England pursuing Milsa, right? No, yes, because 10 is usually something that makes matters public. So like Shmuel says to Rav Chana from Baghdad, I guess, go ahead and gather me 10 people, and I want to go ahead and pass halacha, which halacha was at. One who goes ahead and is mizaki, wants to give over something to a fetus, right, before it's born. The fetus can go, I guess mizaka to the mother, she can acquire it on behalf of the Uber. However, the hilchasa, the halach is hamazak Uber loy kana. One who is mizaka in such a case would not acquire it, despite the fact that he wants to go ahead. I'm sorry. No, he wants to give something, an item to the child that hasn't been born yet, so that he can't be zeich on anything until he's after he's born. Fine. Tudas. We make the Birchas Chasanim, right? The Sheva Brachos in the Beis Chasanim, right? The Beis Chasanim is Shenichnasan L'Chuppah Nesuin, right? When you enter into the Chuppah, Nesuin, that is the Nesuin, that is the second part of the marriage. And when you enter that, that's when you say the Sheva Brachos, like we do now, right? We do Sheva Brachos under the Chuppah. That's Nichnas of the Chuppah. That's the Nesuin, right? This is machlokes as to what exactly is the Nesuin, but over here by the Chuppah. Right, that's chasar. Rabbi Yehuda Amir after base ha'erison, right? Mevarchen Isa. Rabbi Yehuda says now, even when they do erison, even when they did erison from before, when they just did the kedushin, right? They make the birchas chasana. However, Amar Abaye of Yehuda Shana. Right, that was over there by Yehuda, right? Because over there, I guess and Yehuda they used to go ahead and because they would like live together. And then after then, so he said, you know what, we better get the Sheva Brachos also by the time of the Erusin, because then they are miyached with one another. And Tani Idach, we learn another brayso, Mevarchim Birchas Chasanim Beis Chasanim, Birchas Erusin Beis Erusin, right? So we say the Birchas Chasanim in the Beis Chasanim, i.e. by the Chuppah, and the bracha of Erusin takes place by the Erusin. So Birchas Erusin Ma'im Mevarech. So what is this bracha? So Ravin bar Rav Ada, Rav bar Rav Ada, Tarvayu, Bishmei, Rav Yehuda, both of them said the name of Rav Yehuda. Amri, so they said, Brochat Hashem Kin Machalam, Asher Kidishana B'Sav V'Sivanu Al Arayis, right? They were commanded and basically for Arayis, the commandment of Arayis, or to keep the Arayis, their relations are not permitted. But also on us Arusais, and forbid to us the Arusa without the Nesuin. The Hitelanas and Nesuas Aidei Chupa v'Kedushin. However, once there is Chupa and Kedushin, then this Nesua, a woman who was married, is now permitted to him. And Rav Acha b'rei the Rav Messiah Mishmei Rav Yehuda, and he also finished it. Bracha Hashem Mekadesh Yisrael Aidei Chupa v'Kedushin. So they put the Chasima at the end of the bracha of Mekadesh Yisrael, saying by Yisrael through Chupa and Kedushin. The one who did not put a chasim at the end of bracha at the end is like brachas of Paris, right? Which do not have a chasim at the end. The brachas mitzvahs, right? Also like brachas mitzvahs, like when you make a bracha on tzitzis or something like that, right? Man the chasim, and the one who does make chasim, maybe have a kedusha. Since it's like kiddush, right? It's something which is sanctification. When we make kiddush, we say, the beginning of the kiddush, bracha Hashem, mekadesh Shabbos. We'll just do a little more because tomorrow's Thursday, and we daven a little longer on Thursdays. So Tana Rabbanan. The Varchin Birchas Chasanim Be'asara Kol Shiva, right? We as we mentioned earlier, you do these Sheva brachos of with 10 people, all 7 days. And Amar Rav Yehuda, V'hu Shabo Panim Chadashos, right? That is when there is a new face, right? There should be someone who wasn't there on the previous day. So my Mavarech, what we Mavarech, right? So we're not going to darshan this, but it's pretty straightforward. Amar Rav Yehuda, Baruch Hashem Kenem Achalam Shehakol. Right? So we should probably go around, maybe hand out cards, everyone take a turn, right? So he say that everybody, right? So that everything was blessed for Hashem's cover. The Yetzer Adam, right? And another bracha is Hashem Yetzer Adam, that he fashioned a man. Asher Yotzar Sadam B'Salmo, right? That a man was fashioned in his image. Right, but sell Demus Tavniso, these kilo mimena binyan adiyat. Right, so he knows you fashioned like him, and you prepared him to go ahead and build something for eternity. Baruch Hashem Yetzer Adam. Right, the end of Baruch Hashem, right, who was Yetzer Adam, right, who went ahead and fashioned man. And then the next bracha is Sos Tasischa Sagel Hakara. Right, they go ahead and those rejoice those around those who are Akara, who can't have, children or have been barren, and the kibbutz banel l'seicha b'simcha, and he gathered them all together, all the children. B'simcha baruch Hashem b'sameach Sion b'beneha, right? Sion will be glad and will be happy with its with the children, right? With beneha, right? And sameach to samach rei ma'uvim, right? Happiness is to go with those companions. Just like those who have been happy, the Gan Eden Mikadam from the Gan Eden, Hashem, Mesameach Chasan and the Chala, right? Who was made happy, the Chasan and the Kala, and finally, Baruch Hashem Kenem Chalam, Asher Bara Sasan V'Simcha, right? Created joy and happiness, Chasan and Kala, Gila Rina Ditza V'Chedra. Those are different types of happiness and pleasures, outward and inner, Ava, and love, the Achva, and brotherhood, V'Shalom, Reus. Companionship. Quickly, right? Should come and rejoice. Sounds of joy in Arei Yehuda and the courtyards of Yerushalayim. Kol Sason, Kol Simcha, right? Sounds of happiness and outward happiness. And Kol Chasen, Kol Kala, and also the sounds of the Chasen and Kala of also rejoicing with the bride and the groom. Kol Mitzvahs Chasim Chupasan. And then the Chasan and the Chuppah, and the Arim Mishteh and the Ginasam, and the youths, right, the young people, Mishteh and Ginasam, right, from the festivals of their Ginas, right, from their yards. Baruch Hashem, Misameach Chasan im HaKala. So bless Hashem, who made the Chasan with the Kala, that they should rejoice together. We'll stop here, and Mazel Tov on the Shavuos.